Andy Murray has done it. He has become Britain's first Grand Slam winner since 1936, topping his Olympic gold this summer and defying fears he would never rank seriously globally. Jonathan Clegg and Neil McIntosh have been following the US Open in Flushing Meadows, New York, where Andy did it. Jonathan, it wasn't an easy game. I mean, he dropped the fourth and the fifth sets?
The third and the fourth
Third and fourth sets.
Absolutely, yeah. No, this was a sort of vintage Andy Murray performance in that respect. Unlike the Olympic gold he won earlier this summer, when he sort of breezed through the competition and won it all very easily. That triumph came at a time when Britain was winning gold medals all the time, and in that respect it was sort of slightly unnerving to see him win so easily. This was much more of a classic Andy Murray performance. There were times when he sort of was muttering to himself about how badly it all going. It looked like he would snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, but remarkably he came through in the fifth set and sort of won that fifth set very comfortably.
I mean, the Olympic victory was against, obviously, Federer, wasn't it? Whereas this was against Djokovic, which one would have thought would have been perhaps an easier game. You know, Federer has been at the top for so long.
Certainly facing Federer at Wimbledon is never easy, but Djokovic was the defending champion at the US Open, and this was his first defeat in a hard court tournament since 2010. So Djokovic, a formidable opponent on hard courts. But for Murray, you know, this is a very deserved triumph. This was obviously his fifth Grand Slam final appearance. He'd lost the previous four, and he'd only won one set during that time. But for a lot of tennis fans, a lot of observers, this was a triumph that's been a long time coming.
Neil, we've been pointedly calling him British here, but essentially Scottish?
Well, it's a very interesting thing with Andy Murray, of course. He famously early in his career very much identified himself as being Scottish, made some noises about the English, which went down very poorly here in England. More recently, he obviously won gold at the Olympics and wrapped in the British Union flag, and he's identified himself much more as being British.
That was a very pointed move at the Olympics, wasn't it?
Well, it was there was a moment. It's hard to tell, and you don't want to layer political meaning on moments of sporting happiness. But for some observers, that was taken as something that was perhaps damaging to the nationalist cause in Scotland. And Scotland, of course, has a referendum coming up on whether it should perhaps gain further devolution or indeed go independent.
I mean, what's interesting, of course, is, I mean, this topped, I mean, okay, it was Murray in New York, but it really just topped some amazing performances in the Olympics for the British. I mean, and there were lots of other Scottish people involved in the Olympic gold medalist as well, of course.
Absolutely. We had Andy Murray, as I said earlier, we had Sir Chris Hoy, our possibly greatest Olympian, Heather Stanning, Catherine Granger in the rowing, we had gold winners in equestrian and canoeing. So and these are just
all those big high-profile gold medals.
Scotland has never been more interested in canoeing. I can tell you now.
Okay, Jonathan.
Almost as though it rains there all the time.
Okay, but what is interesting, does this really put Murray right back at the top? Is this a new Murray, I guess, is the big question. He has a new coach. Ivan Lendl is now his coach. Is he now a stronger player?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of talk after the Olympics whether that was his sort of breakthrough performance. There's no doubt that this really is a breakthrough. This elevates him to a status that he hadn't previously, you know, a stratosphere that he hadn't previously occupied. He's very clearly now one of the big four in tennis. Men's tennis for the past 3 or 4 years has had this big four: Andy Murray, Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer and Rafa Nadal. But really it's been a big three and Andy Murray. Those four players have often occupied the places in the semi-finals, but really when it comes down to actually winning tournaments, it's been the other three.
Because he just kept losing.
Because he kept losing. Now he really is on that level, and with, you know, Federer's age getting up there and concerns about Rafa Nadal's knees, we could be witnessing a time when Djokovic and Murray will be the dominant males in tennis.
Neil, a slightly psychological thing there, I guess, once he's won. Now I guess the big thing is, can he do it at Wimbledon?
Well, he's a Scot. His demeanour in the press conference after the event, he still carried the air of a man whose drink had been spilt rather than winning a Grand Slam. So who knows what's going on there. He's got a new coach now, Ivan Lendl, who's been credited with toughening him up. Possibly a bit of sitting in the stands and staring at him, it would toughen anyone up and steal the resolve. So perhaps that's pushing him on now. That gold at the Olympics at Wimbledon was a big moment, it seems, and perhaps is opening the floodgates for him.
It's a breakthrough. Brilliant. Jonathan, Neil, thank you both very much indeed.